Hi guys, and welcome to Rufus and Doofus. Chico here today, and I am at the Titan Missile Museum. That's what this video is going to be about. Yeah, guess where Rufus is? Home sleeping. Yep. So the tour is about to begin, and I'll try and film as much as I can of it. Okay? So don't go away, guys. Stick around. Well, this is the area of the missile silo, and we just watched a 17-minute video about it. Very interesting.
571-7. I'm Norm, my partner's Hap, and we'll be taking you down below for your tour of the underground complex. When you're taking pictures, be very careful topside. There are tripping hazards when you're looking through the viewfinder. I want to caution you on that. And also, if you would, please resist the urge to touch the artifacts. This is the only one left down at 54 like this. The others have all been destroyed. So we do appreciate that. And you can include us on your social networking. It's a little free advertisement for us. Feel free to do that as well. We're going to go down below and begin our tour at level 2, at the beginning of what we call the hardened area. And we're going to talk about construction and how they built that below so the crew could survive a nearby nuclear explosion. This is a retaliatory. Around. There's some good signage for you. I do want to point out a few things I encourage you to look at. When you walk around that path, you'll be walking by that tan door. That's the silo closure door. It is half open. On the other side of it is a viewing stand. Now you can step up there and you can see the missile in the silo like it was when it was on alert. It's an actual missile. The missile is twice the height of that pole. I know they told you what it was, but see that pole there? Just imagine how tall it is when you're looking down in there. And the launch duct itself goes down another 40 feet below where the missile is. So that's the deepest part of the silo out there. So please do that. And then the engines have been removed and are on display over in that engine shed, so you'll have an opportunity to see the engines. And there's some good signage on all the antennas. If you want to look at those, you can walk around and see those. And when you finish, you can leave your helmet, serve those over here in a bin, and then the last door with the handle takes you back in the gift shop. So that's how it's going to work for you. Let's go on down below and get our tour started. Anybody need the elevator? Yes, sir? Okay. All right, we just walked through the access portal, and the elevator was part of that when it was operational. You can tell it was built to very good construction standards. You got steel staircases, concrete walls, but if you had a nearby nuclear explosion, the Air Force considered this to be a soft area. It would probably be reduced to rubble because of the flimsy door up there and the after effects of the nearby nuclear explosion. But when you step through here, construction changes. Now you'd be in the hardened area. The Titan II was deployed as a retaliatory weapon, not a first strike, so we would have to have Soviet missiles coming into our shores before they turned the keys to launch the Titan II. So that's why you have the construction the way it is in here. So it will survive a nearby, the effects of the nearby. What's nearby? I'm really not sure. Maybe a mile and a half away. It was never tested. So anyway, that's what we tell you, a mile and a half away. You get in here, the walls are 4 foot thick. The concrete has rebar in it that varies in size from the size of my thumb to the size of a handrail. And the rebar is placed on 9-inch centers versus 12. And where intersected, 3 different planes, they welded it instead of tying. And when they were pouring the concrete for this area back here, they poured continuously from the plant that was either on the side or nearby. So they avoided any cold spots or seams. And when they finished pouring the concrete, this is a 1/4-inch form, but welded together. That was the outside form of all the concrete. It was left in place. Now the crew is protected from electromagnetic pulsing. None of the EMP will penetrate through that steel and destroy their communications and electronics. They also grounded it in here, so now you have a Faraday cage. So when the crews came out here for their 24-hour alert, they arrived here, they'd already made all their calls, they coded in. This is where the 4th phone call is made. When they came down here, all these doors were locked. There's 4 blast lock doors. Okay, 2 here, 6 and 7. 1 blast lock here. Protects the crew from any effects coming down here. It stops right here. The other 2 you're going to see in there, 8 and 9, actually protect the crew from the missile. Because if you look to your right when you go in there, you're going to see a long cableway. Well, that's where the missile is. and so it protects them from any mishaps in there. These doors weigh 6,000 pounds. They are secured by steel bolt pins, too high and too low, hydraulically operated. And when these doors are closed, this metal surface matches this one, and there's a seal that goes around here. So now you're protecting the crew to over 1,000 pounds per square inch of overpressure in these blast locks. The whole site down below will take 300. And you look at me, okay, how much is that? Well, let me tell you how much that is. How about between 5 and 7 to 8 pounds your house blows away if it's a wooden construction? If you're living in the concrete, you may be able to make it up to about 10 or 12 or even 20 if you're in a large building. But then it's all destroyed. So they were protected to over 1,000 and 300 down here. So that's the comparison for you. Okay, once they make this call, the crew on duty puts power to the door. They push an open button. Pins are retracted. Everything from the elevator and what they brought down here for the 24-hour alert, the food bedding, tech orders, they bring it in here. When they pull this door open, they put power to the door, they pull it open, and when they want to close it, here's what happens. These are interlocked. Only one can be opened at a time, so they have to pull this one closed, which trips this switch here. And then when they push the close button here, the signal up here will tell the next door that it's all closed. Now they can open the other door. They're interlocked, so they're always protected. Ma'am, would you like to help me? Come on in here.
Knowing you.
Pull out real hard. 6,000-pound door. She's doing all right. 6,000 pounds. So when you call in the parking lot and you need your car pushed, right? What we're showing you is a great construction out here, okay? This site was finished in 29 months. All 54 were finished in 3 years. Concurrent construction, no computers. Quality of construction. Okay, we're going from here into another building. It's called the Launch Control Center building, and I'll explain all that to you when we get in there, so follow me, please. You saw in the briefing room, it looks like a bird cage. Dome top, flat on the bottom. It has 3 levels. We're at level 2, where the crew would spend the majority of their time in here, and always 2 people in here. One had to be a commissioned officer. And yes, women were part of the crews out here. You saw them milling around in the film. Yeah, in 1978, this is one of the first combat roles for in the Air Force. In fact, now you have a lot of crews, women crews manning the Minuteman 3 sites. Okay, now level 1, the crew's quarters are up here. Down below us at level 3 is a communications room, equipment room, a lot of stuff down below here. It's very noisy down there, air conditioning, power distribution, 228-volt batteries about the size of this console down here, always on trickle charge. 28-volt power supplies are down there. And there's an emergency escape hatch down here. Remember I talked about the might collapse out here, the access portal? Well, I gave them an emergency escape. Go down here, level 3, cross over. Right over to this side over here, and you go right below there where that blast valve is. It's connected to the air shaft. You can climb into a little tunnel and into the air shaft, and you can climb out here. It's all located down below. The blast valve protects the crew from any overpressure or any contaminated air coming down, because if you have a nearby nuclear explosion, 2 pounds per square inch of overpressure slam that thing closed. And they can also close it manually if somebody's trying to throw anything in their air shaft. Okay, how did they shock isolate this building? Everything in this complex down below, if it's critical to the mission, it's on springs. How did they do it in here? Well, they connected all 3 floors together with that framing you see right there, and they suspended them on 8 large springs. We're hanging on 8 large springs in here. Okay? When you walked in, you walked over a little steel bridge. Crews referred to that as a rattle space. Nothing to do with snakes. It covers a space of 11 inches between the floor and the wall. Folks, you're in a very safe building right now. If you had an earthquake or anything nearby, it would just bounce up and down. 18 inches, and it's all stays connected. You're going to see a lot more of that. We'll explain some more to you. Okay. So we talked about the building. Now we're going to talk about the crew. I've got a captain here. She's in charge of the 24-hour alert. She would make all the decisions out here. She's assisted by her husband, who's the deputy today. He's a first or second lieutenant. And he's in charge of all his communications. He's in charge of safety. He's in charge of security. That's his job for the 24-hour period. Now, they're assisted by 2 highly trained technicians, enlisted people. They actually have more training than the officers because they are trained in the systems. One of them is called a BMAT, a ballistic missile analyst technician. This analyst technician is in charge of the missile, the inertial measuring unit, the guidance computer in the missile, the reentry vehicle that sits on top of that missile. It's all their area of expertise. They know how to troubleshoot, tell the commander what the status is. Then you have another person who's also a part of the crew. It's called an MFT, Missile Facilities Technician, Building Supervisor. How many support systems do we have down here? How about 40? Hydraulics, hydraulics, air conditioning, power supplies, you name it, generator, elevators. Somebody has to know how to troubleshoot. Somebody has to know what to tell the crew out at Davis Mountain. They got 400 technicians out there. Tell them what the problem is so they can come out here and fix it. So that's what their responsibilities were. They were here to monitor this missile, the operational status, and to turn the key if the president directed them to do so. Okay, this console is the commander's console during the launch. A lot of lights here, just like the dashboard of your car. You can check engine light. Should one of them turn red, you got a starting point to troubleshoot. Except they had a lot of tech orders here. You got a little manual. Here they had all these tech orders that they needed. But that's what that did for them. Told them what the status was below and above ground in the first 2 sets of lights here. The middle one here, this tells them what the status of the reentry vehicle is, the missile, the inertial guidance system, and the power. This displays target status, targets 1, 2, and 3. The Titan II had a very large hydrogen bomb. So it had 1 primary target and 2 alternate targets. Now, Commander, your first question is, can you tell me what your primary target is?
No, sir, I don't know that yet.
Target 2 is your primary target. It's got a light on it. First answer. The question is, you know anything at all about target 2?
I think we just lost the war.
That's the correct answer. The crews didn't know. They knew them as targets 1, 2, and 3. What did they call it? They called it a need to know. If you didn't have a need to know, they didn't tell you. Because you really didn't have to have a need to know. It actually, you knew what country they were going to, okay? I will tell you that. So here's launch sequencing here. When we turn keys to do our simulated launch, the lights will come on, tell the commander how to launch. This is your communication system. Not only you know what this is, but boy, the younger generation has a little trouble with it. They don't even know. Anyway, that's your console. Here's the deputy's console. He's sitting over here. Now I'm going to go back over here first before I talk about the deputy. That red safe is called the emergency war order safe. You could call it the go-to-war safe. Why is it painted red? Because it's very important. The entry is restricted to the commander and the deputy on that 24-hour alert. And only they have the combination to those locks because they are personal locks. They bring them out here with them when they come out here for a 24-hour alert. And once that inventory is complete, the other crew going home takes them with them. They put theirs on. What's in there? Everything they need to authenticate the launch order from the president. That's why it's so critical it's under 2-person control at all times, and also the launch keys are kept in there. Okay, communications, UHF radios, high-frequency radios, right there. Talk to aircraft, talk worldwide. Dot matrix printer, I know most of you on this tour know what a dot matrix printer is. Sometimes I get those who sort of have no idea what a dot matrix is. Anyway, that's what they used circa 1963. Survivable, very low frequency, very low. Survivable communication system that will probably be used for reconstitution if you had a incoming missile, because the antenna for this is buried in the ground. All transmissions come through the ground on this system. All you get is a paper copy like you see there. You don't get a voice. The Navy uses water to communicate with subs. Here they use that earth system. Okay, so that's a little bit about comms. Now, the commander's console, or deputy's console, raises and lowers the antennas that are buried in the ground. Antenna control here. Monitor radios, change frequencies here. Locator board, safety. Got to keep track of everybody down here at all times. They issue a radio and they had to report in. Had to know where they were. Okay, communications backup is like the commanders. Launch clock. Always check twice a shift. The atomic clock in Colorado, always up to the second. And you're probably wondering, why is that clock 7 hours off? If it's so accurate. It's the launch clock.
Greenwich mean?
Greenwich means Standard Time, Greenwich, England. In the military, they call it Zulu time. All military operations throughout the world conduct on Zulu time. So any military operations that are going on right now, this is what time it is, folks. It's coming up on 11 o'clock at night, about 20 minutes, 25 minutes till. Here you had 7 hours for Zulu. Just to give you an idea. So that's the launch clock. Security, this is where they see the person passing the code and burning it, right here. Part of security. Another part of security, I want to ring a bell, don't anybody jump. A lot of people do. That's where they get the alarm, and the Doppler radar system, topside. If anybody breaks through that beam, coyote, mountain lion, other animals, they had a lot of false alarms. That's what I'm trying to tell you. Usually not that a human being gets from over the fence and set it off. But that's all the protection they had topside, no cameras or anything else, just for the air shaft and the silent closure door. This is Facility Power Control Board. This is part of the facilities technician's area of expertise. They bought their power just like you do from a local vendor. Here you can never be without power. So you have to have 3 different power systems here to make sure your gyroscopes and that inertial measuring unit and your accelerometers are always powered up. So if you lose commercial power here at this site, this is an automatic. It signals the generator as 510 horsepower diesel at level 3 of the silo, which powers a 350 kilowatt generator, starts automatically. But it takes 60 to 90 seconds for that power to stabilize. What happens during those 60 or 90 seconds? Remember I mentioned those 228 volt direct current batteries down here? They sense this. They will power everything the crew needs to turn the keys on the Titan II. You can launch the missile on 28 volt direct current power. If the backup doesn't come back, or commercial power doesn't come back, if those batteries are new, they'll work for 3 or 4 hours for you. So you can always turn the key on the Titan II and launch it. Because you're going to lose a grid if you have incoming missiles. Okay, that's power. These 3 panels here and this one here are part of the missile fault. You do missile and system verification checks here. You receive the message. Well, first of all, you're going to receive it through all the communication systems. But primarily, you're going to receive it through these 2 speakers here and the 2 over here. The deputy has the same when you do that. Very noisy, full volume. All emergency action messages that came in here to the crew came in through the primary alerting system, SAC's famous red telephone, underground command center. So the president would direct the JCS to go ahead and prepare the message in the National Military Command Center. They would send it out to all the nuclear forces, and in our case here, we would get it from the SAC headquarters in Omaha, Nebraska, and also one of their numbered air forces, which was the backup command for the Southwest region. Where were they located? Riverside, California, March Air Force Base. So these are links to those 2 locations. So we would hear a very loud warbling tone. Why the warbling tone? Well, everybody got your attention right there. So now you hear the warbling tone. Now, you're going to grab your book, Commander, and your deputy's going to grab his. You're going to open them up, and you're going to go ahead and copy a message. All messages came in that way. They never knew what they were. You don't have to copy. They never knew what they were until they decoded it. Okay? You could get a practice message. You could get a communications check. It was always the same. But a launch order would sound like this. I'm not going to bore you with all the characters, but that's what they sounded like. So the first 6 characters you copied were repeated twice. That was called the preamble. The preamble told the crew what kind of a message it was. And if it was a launch order, when they finished copying, they exchanged the book with the deputy and they copied it again. They want to verify they both got the same alphanumerics. This took 2.5 to 3 minutes. Now the deputy would acknowledge receipt to the command post. Now, if it was a launch order, they had to go to the red safes. From the red safe, they're going to remove their locks. They're going to take out a sealed authenticator that the president had used to authenticate that launch order, and they're also going to take out their keys because they have a launch order. Say it's 9 Yankee, right here. The other 5 values in that line 1 better match what's in here. And if they do, now you have a valid message from the president. Next thing you're going to do, Commander, is you're going to take the time in the message, universal launch time, and you're going to take your computer printout, and you're going to compute what time you're supposed to turn the keys here at your site. Because it could be minutes, it could be an hour. If you don't want to send that missile over there when other missiles are going in, or B-52. So now you have to determine when you're going to launch. You write it right here, so everybody knows when you're going to turn the keys. Next thing you do is you're going to give me that code. I'm going to dial it in. First time I'm going to get it correct. I'm going to get a green light. We're ready to go. Time comes to launch. You put your key here. Deputy, you have a key over here. They're far enough apart. It takes your deputy to help you out here. It takes two people to do this. You got to turn it within 2 seconds and hold it for flower. You ready? Put your left hands on the keys.
Turn within 2 seconds.
Yeah, I'll tell you when to go. I'll give you a count.
You're supposed to do it?
What
Yeah,
way?
yeah. That way.
That way.
Okay, I should have told you that.
I
Here's the reason you're using your left hand so you can see the long sequence. Okay, put your left hand on the key. I want to say 3, 2, 1, launch, turn. When I say turn, turn your keys to the right. 3, 2, 1, launch. Turn your keys and hold them all the way, Commander, all the way. See lights come on up here? Sit back and relax. You've done your job. Sit back and relax. There is no oops button here. You cannot say I'm sorry. It says verified, launch enabled. Now you're launch enabled. You started your launch sequence. First light says batteries are being activated. 228-volt batteries they installed dry without electrolyte, which will power up your guidance system, are now being force-fed electrolyte for the first time. 28 seconds. Is your next light on?
Yes.
Okay, your missile's on full power. It's ready to go. Now the silo closure door is raising up. It's going to slide through, and when it does, it's going to set up. You have silo soft.
Yep.
Guidance system says go. Knows where it is, what it's supposed to do. Okay, now fuel and oxidizer are starting to flow. Thrust mount's locking up to the missile. We're injecting water into level 9. And you're going to have a lot of fire out here at level 9 in a few seconds. In about 4 seconds, you're going to have this. What is that? Lift off. 58 seconds. If everything went well to launch the Titan II. You cannot avoid it. It can avoid it.
Bad day for somebody.
You do nothing. You turn out the keys, and you sit back and watch it happen. It's all automatic. So when it leaves here, you will be at the target at 30 to 35 minutes, about 5,500 to 6,000 miles away. Target 2 would not be a good day to have lunch or a social hour tonight, or anything like that. There is no recall for it. Once it leaves here, the missile's on its own. It guides itself to the target. Your job is done. And there are some good news and bad news about after that happens. Hold the door. Oh, here's the young thing. Here you go. This is tell your friends that you can pull a 6,000-pound door.
That's perfect.
Man, this is for you. This is for you. Now, the good news is they gave you 30 days of food and water down there, sea rations. They weren't as good as MREs, but they were edible.
Barely.
Some of you GIs, you know what those are all about. Okay, the blast valve closed on you over here, and now you have trapped air down here. You have no way to clean it, so you may have 2 weeks spare. So at that point, you're going to have to make a decision and send your deputy up to that air, so you have to see what's left outside to a changed world. This was all part of what we call mutual assured destruction. They had them, we had them, nobody wanted to turn the key. No, there are no winners in the nuclear war. So fortunately, the Titan II did its job very well for over 25 years or so by doing nothing. Just sitting here on alert. Okay, thank you very much for helping me.
Thank you.
3 missions. Norm's talked to you about the first mission as an intercontinental ballistic missile. The second and third missions were a lot more peaceful. This was the boost vehicle for the Gemini space program. And the purpose of Gemini was to prepare our astronauts by giving them an orientation ride, some practice and docking maneuvers, and a ride in space for the Apollo missions that put the first man on the moon. Neil Armstrong was that individual that his orientation ride in space on mission Gemini 8. If you ever want to see a Titan, go to Colorado. And there they modified the second stage so they could carry weather and communication satellites into space. The last launch of a Titan II, the missile that came in service in 1963, designed to last 10 years, was on the 18th of October 2003, over 40 years after it came in service.
Well, guys, I know it's going to be a real long video. I tried turning it off a couple of times during the presentations to save some battery life. So we're going to do our best when we edit this. But I got to admit, this is probably one of the most interesting places I've ever been. And thank God that they were never used.